you can see them, maybe, you know, in some ways you don't see who you're talking to, right, on the internet, or that's an option still. And so maybe that doesn't distract other things we focus on. You know, it's easy to find someone at a bar and get distracted with a certain aspect. Maybe they look hot, you know, or, and then the magic takes over, and it's like, okay, well, or maybe the beer goggles, depending, and you don't really, you see certain parts of them, but you miss other parts that are maybe important. Dialogue, communication, that you can really kind of concentrate on in the internet too. So I think there's positive things too.
For sure, but I know, I mean, for those of us who are major geeks, I can think of half a dozen friends of mine who are complete geekazoids who have successfully found and made it online. They wouldn't know this person's in Massachusetts, this person's in Arkansas, but they met up online, eventually came to be geolocal, and realize, wow, I really do like you. And so there are successful, romantically based, happy marriages for meeting online. So it's not 100% horrible. But I've never really been single or used online dating, so actually of this, I know nothing personally.
But clearly what I'm hearing is that many of you feel that there is an impatience that comes on through online dating, that people's tolerance for how relationships evolve and for people's natural shortcomings is less because you can move on. You're not geographically limited. There's lots of pictures. Pick one you like. You know?
It's almost like it's easier to meet people than when there's a problem. They just, you know, stop answering your emails.
Right.
How many people in the audience have been broken up on chat or text? That's fascinating to me, you know. Like, it's okay. Much easier, I guess.
You know, I guess one of the questions is, you know, if the goal, and I'm not sure it is, but if the goal is sort of meaningful, intimate relationships, you know, what can each one of you do to continue this dialogue? How do you see your lives fitting in with promoting the idea that we can improve the intimacy and the relationships that we have, either through the use of media or communication facilities?
For us, we really, you know, with our site, we really believe in offline communications. There's nothing that can replace. I mean, I think it's great that there's all these ways to communicate, to meet people, but it's still, at the end of the day, if you're going to have a relationship with a human being, you should be with the human being in person. So we think it's really important, so that's how we'll continue that. And then also, too, helping people with adapting their behaviors, because I think one of the things we talked about is people are losing those social skills that maybe predated Facebook and other social networks. So being able to help people, you know, whether that's through, you know, online or offline, but being able to help them and coach them through this adapting communication style that we have now with all this technology.
For me, with my line of work, I'm constantly reminding people that just because you saw it in a movie does not mean it's doable in person, or that your partner will want to do it. So fantasy is great, but in the real world, I have to negotiate with my partner as what we're going to do. We're professionals. Do not try this at home. And so the difference between the projection of fantasy onto an image and then an actual human person, and to know that those are different, and just because you saw it on the movie doesn't mean she's going to want to do it or he's going to want to do it. Ask first, negotiate, have a conversation before you put that where.
Don't bring out the donkey, please.
First of all, I have to say I'm very disappointed that I can't try that at home, but
we have some videos.
So with the site, actually, a lot of the site is pretty much just built around laughter. I mean, so I'm a firm believer in that laughter is healing, and so when people are out there and they're looking for love and they come home and all of a sudden their computer has rejected them, or their date has showed up and is 50 years older and, you know, 50 pounds heavier, right? They can come to the site and you know, create a community and laughter around that. Really? I can't try that? I don't know. I'm joking. So, and then I think as far as you know, for what I'm trying to do out there also is to keep people honest. You know, I mean, so much now with the technology is that people can be dishonest. Mm-hmm. And so I think by having a forum where people can, you know, show. Actually, when I first launched the site, it was a real dating site, and it, through keywords, actually matched people through their stories with what they didn't like. So there, you have more in common sometimes with somebody who, you know, doesn't tip well, or whatever it is, right? Like if you know that. So I don't want to go over my time. I'm going to go home and try that too.
Actually, she makes a really good point. Just as you can't assume that a person will do something you see on camera, a lot of couples can get over the hump, so to speak, by saying, "Ooh, that looks fun. Do you want to try it?" and can start the conversation. So adult material can be a block or a benefit.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a life goal for me is the destigmatization of sexuality in this culture. Because many of the issues that we're talking about have to do with the fact that sex is hidden, sex is shameful, sex is not to be talked about. If you act out in some way, you have to keep it to yourself. You're afraid of what people think. This sort of duplicity about the way that we in our culture carry sexuality, which is you want to look good and you want people to want you, but you don't want to talk about it or deal with it directly. And then when you have a problem with it, you don't want to let anybody to know. I mean, one of the reasons that sexual addiction really doesn't have the tread that some of the other addictions have is because families of alcoholics or families of people who have gambling disorders or even eating disorders in recovery will come out and say, wow, this saved my life to go into treatment. I really made a difference in my life, and I want to give money to research for alcohol treatment, or I want to support the development of gambling disorders programs. But no one I've ever treated for sexual disorders comes up and says, well, I'm so grateful I'm not seeing all those prostitutes anymore that I really want to support the research in consensual sexual behavior. So we need to be able to destigmatize these issues so that we can talk about them and have the money to research on them. Then I think we're going to really be getting somewhere. That would be my goal.
Amber, it looked like you had wanted to say something.
I just agree. I agree with what everyone said, that it's just easier to meet people, but it's just trying in person to really relate. And that's my weakness, and that's why I'm staying online to meet, but then I got to work on my social skills.
Nicholas?
But there's also the that sixth sense one has, when you're with someone in person, there's this myriad of things you pick up on, body language wise, just how people react. And I think that's missing right now anyway with the internet. And that's a valuable thing, that instinct you get when you see someone. Because now what is that? It's just so many little things you could be picking up, and that's not even conscious, but it's subconscious. And I think that's seriously important in terms of developing that relationship. And then there's also smells and that natural kind of attraction we have